A federal judge is keeping an order barring deportations of suspected gang members under an 18th century wartime law, sending the case to the appellate court. The judge accuses the Trump administration of treating Nazis better and says there were no procedures to properly notify anybody of these deportations. The Trump administration called that comparison disgusting. Now, the appellate court has yet to rule, but the question here is not why the immigrants were deported, but rather why they were deported, possibly without due process. So joining me now is NewsNation legal contributor Jesse Weber. Jesse, good morning to you. If it does come to light that they, in fact, didn't get the opportunity, to legally dispute that they were members of this Tren de Aragua gang, will Trump lose the battle to keep them there?
Unless it goes to the Supreme Court. Look, I think you make a really good point. So this is happening in two different courts. So the lower court is Judge Boasberg, who we've heard a lot about in the last 2 weeks. He yesterday actually upheld the TRO blocking the Trump administration from using the Alien Enemies Act to further deport Venezuelans on substantive grounds, said that if you look at the actual statute, it doesn't match up. The appellate court actually, as you said, didn't even look on this upon the statute on the substantive grounds. They said that these individuals were not granted due process. And you know that the Supreme Court has always said that, even undocumented migrants or immigrants have actually due process rights. In other words, they have notice, they need a full and fair hearing, they need judicial review. And the big concern here that you heard from the appellate court is they had no idea, these people that were deported, what was going on. They didn't have an opportunity to challenge their detention. They weren't given the proper notice. And what's interesting about that is it's kind of difficult to predict what the appellate court will do. Why do I say that? Well, you had one judge who made that Nazi comparison, and it's pretty clear to see which way that judge is going to go. One of the judges on this panel is somebody who's actually taken an opposite position in the past and has said that undocumented immigrants may not have the same kind of due process rights as everybody else. So you're seeing a little bit of pushback here. Another judge actually said, well, these individuals could have filed a habeas petition if they really wanted to challenge their detention. So it's a little bit difficult to predict. Having said that, it seems to me there is a strong likelihood that they may actually side with the lower court and rule against the Trump administration.
And as you and I both know, the suspected gang members, they're already in El Salvador. If the appellate court rules in the judge's favor, how do they get a fair trial while in prison in a foreign country?
See, that's the key here. Well, the reason we have preliminary injunctions, the reason we have TROs is to prevent something from happening that you can't fix. And you have to wonder, is one of the reasons why there was this arguably haphazard way to deport these individuals is what's the end result? If they're in an El Salvadorian jail, how do you get them back if their rights were violated? And actually, by the way, that came up during the discussion in the appellate court yesterday. A question was posed to the government's lawyers. Are you suggesting that the only way that they can challenge their detention and their deportation is after they were deported? There's not an easy answer. And I would have to imagine that if the court sides against the Trump administration, and let's say the Supreme Court decides not to take up this issue, would the Trump administration be forced to negotiate and work with the El Salvadorian government to get these people back? And that's the concern.
Yeah, and then also if the appellate court sides with the president, what precedent is that going to set? Playing all sorts of hypotheticals here. Jesse Weber, got to end it there, but thank you so much as always. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.